Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
And we are back. Dude, what's up? It's Friday.
What's up, brother?
It's Friday. I thought it was Friday all day yesterday. Turns out Friday's today. Here we go.
Friday is today, man.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Bringing you the facts now.
That's right. That's right, dude. How was the week?
Good. It was good. I got a lot done. It was great, man. You know, like I said, last week was just kind of more of adjusting myself to kind of like a blip in the schedule to where I was not able to get stuff done, which I've identified as one of the things that kind of can easily send me into a tizzy. So yeah, that was good. I just, blasted it through that. Again, it was really from thinking about Francisco and just all the balls he was juggling. It's just one of those things where it's like, well, I can't be a bitch about this. So, yeah, man, and just got a ton of stuff done. I've been kind of regimented. I've kind of the thing you've talked about before, Wes, the definite chief aim. I think I've I tend to kind of suffer from wanting to do a million things. And I think the last week or so, I've slightly condensed that universe of tangentially related things I'm after into something more of a structured endeavor. So I'm pretty pumped about that.
That's actually a really good topic. You mind if we jump into it a tiny bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is where I've noticed some people get stuck, including myself. So the first thing is, and this is just what works for me. So hopefully this will work for other people. But having my goals printed out and written down, et cetera, this was the biggest game changer for me, probably in the last 15 years. The tricky part is, though, the goals document does not account for the daily stimulus that comes in. Like, somebody asking you to do something else, et cetera. So like what I try to do, and we have this on Rhomas University, as you guys will eventually see. So you kind of put your goals through identities. Who do you want to become? Because goals are they're just your best guess at the path to becoming that part of you that you want to become. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to be, a CEO, whatever that is for all of us. Well, but then when you sit down, you sit down for 10 hours or however long you take this to do this, well, then the next day somebody asks you to do something, right? Or another project comes across and it's like, oh shit, well, it's not my document. But the whole point there is, okay, well, take that first. Well, so let me say this. Let me take a step back. When you get mixed up in life, all of a sudden, if I were to ask somebody, just maybe any one of us, say, hey, tell me what your goals are. So if you have it, you pull out your goals. So, okay, here are my goals. Most people don't even have their goals. So that's even a win. But then it's, okay, well, tell me about yesterday. And let's go through every single action that you took. And let's see what percentage of your actions actually were pointed in the direction of your goals. And very few percentage-wise for normal people are actually have any sort of relation to their goals. Does that make sense? Am I making sense so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious why, and maybe it's an obvious answer, but why do you think that is? Like, I always bug out on that. It's like, why is it so hard?
Oh, totally.
Align yourself properly to the thing that you actually want. I'm always kind of, and I have some ideas, but I'm always curious what you think about that, what people think about it.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion on that is two major things. Number one, we want to do what we feel like doing in the right now. Like whatever that is. You could be hungry, you could be cold, you could be bored, you could be whatever it is. Usually goals take work. So like in contrast to whatever we're feeling at that given moment of wanting to play video games or smoke weed or do whatever the hell, in contrast to actually putting in the work, it's always going to seem like a better, or it's always going to feel like a better option, of doing whatever the leisurely thing is to do. Additionally to that, so I think that's the first major pillar of not accomplishing what you want. The next major pillar is stuff that other people are giving to you. That's why my rule is I don't put my hands out when anybody ever brings a piece of paper. Like that's like the weird rule in the office. Don't hand me anything. The reason for that is because I know that the human brain, especially my brain, is so susceptible to wanting to try to help others or to help to make them happy, that as soon as they give me something, all of a sudden now I'm accomplishing their objective before my own. And really it should be a common objective, right? But like, how many times have you experienced in work or with family or with whatever it is, marriage, etc., where the person's just handing you something that you guys didn't talk about prior to that. And dude, like 70% of the time, they're just handing you it because they don't want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So I think it's that combination of like feeling like you want to do something else at the given time, and then also wanting to help others, and then other people giving you their stuff. All of a sudden, your goals have just gone in the trash can for the day. And then it's the same the next day, the same the next day.
Yeah, and there's also like a balance to be struck because, you could have people could say, oh, well, you got to do stuff. And it's like, yeah, you obviously, and I know you know this, Wes, so you have to like, there is a give and take, and you have to, in any relationship, you have to do stuff for other people. But like what I think what Wes is saying, if you're to just go into a default mode where whenever if there's no kind of barrier to like whenever somebody brings something to you, if your immediate answer is like, okay, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm. That can start to end. You can say, well, I just want to be nice, I want to help, but like, and I've done this myself before, where you kind of put yourself on the back burner for whatever pops up, and you can just start becoming resentful, where it's like, why don't I do shit, blah blah. So, yeah, I think it's important to at least bring some sort of conscious awareness to that idea, and I think it's hilarious too, just being like, I'm not touching it, do not give it to me, and again, yeah, it's like. And sometimes too is that people just come up with plans where it's like, hey, like, we should do this, but right now I'm doing this and I'm in the middle of it and I need to finish it, because if I don't have some form of structure that I keep myself to, then, it's just unbelievable how easily the wheels can come off and you're back to just kind of floating around.
Oh yeah. And that's the whole point, is that I'm not saying don't ever accept anything. What I'm saying is, remember how you and I did improv comedy class years ago? Mm. Dude, one of the best exercises that I think about often, it sounds so simple, is where you do, remember the ball exercise where I say, red ball, Matt, and then I toss it to you. You catch it and say, thank you, Wes, red ball. And it sounds so silly, but when you're doing it in a group, it's actually pretty funny because it forces you to define the abstract into making it more concrete and saying, hey, I'm giving you this thing. I'm going to send it over to you. You making eye contact with me, catching it, and then saying that's what you received. It makes it for crystal clear communication. So what I'm saying is don't, in my opinion, you can still accept things from others, but first define what that thing is and then put it through the filter of your goals. Does it fit in any one of the buckets? If it does not fit, in my opinion, don't do it. Like for me, that's why I don't drink. That's why I don't do drugs. Like that's why I don't do any of these things. It's not for a moral reason at all. It's just because it doesn't fit within the characters that I want to become. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I like Gunter's thing too of just kind of setting up a. He was saying he's thinking about implementing, at work at least, like do not disturb Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 1, and I feel like that's dude, especially within any kind of like whether it be a relationship at home, work relationship. Trying to implement this kind of stuff all at once on people go like, whoa, what is this? But if you're like, hey, I want to just really focus. I want to really get stuff done. If you can do this at and I found this to be the case that works for me, just be like, hey, at this time, I need this time to be totally undisturbed. And you just start with like an hour and you can slowly start to expand it, because otherwise it becomes like, there's no structure and I want to do this, you want to do that. Now let's argue about who gets to do what. But when you start to lay down that structure and that person comes, you're like, hey, we agreed to this. Like, what's up? So, that's a big one.
And once you're experiencing certain things, let's just say it's your job. It is very difficult to, like, on an impromptu level, come up with a better plan of action than a premeditated strategic plan of action. Does that make sense? So, for instance, like when my partner and I sit down on the finance company and we say, okay, here's where we want to get in 3 months. Here's our best guess. Let's take 5 hours. We're going to sketch it all out, and from all of our experience, et cetera. The probability of me coming up with a better plan, just like on a random Tuesday, just because I'm bored and like, I said, well, I'm going to start doing this. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. Your brain just wants to do that because the plan that you created originally is boring, or like there's it's not new. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's making more phone calls. But instead, my brain says, well, I don't want to make more phone calls. I want to go off and I want to try this other little fancy thing over here. So there's a lot of incentive mentally in the immediate time horizon to go off and do something else. But the reality is, and we all know this, like the reality is sticking with the tried and true fundamentals, premeditated action is usually 95% of the time what works best.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, dude, the goals binder, I think it's really cool to do that, to set it all up, to really kind of lay it out. So that way there's a larger kind of, I guess, frame or context for like your day-to-day actions. The thing that helps me the most is just, again, taking that and then really having like some form of morning or like daily routine that, is the thing you do every morning. And I swear to God, man, just doing my 20-minute meditation, followed immediately by journaling. And these things, I always do them. Like say like I wake up and I'm like, you know what, I have like a half an hour before the babysitter comes. I'll just work out real quick. I kind of float around during that time. But once like, it's 8 o'clock, the babysitter's here. I know exactly where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing. And it's like whenever I hit those periods of like where I catch myself kind of fucking around doing nothing, kind of like, well, I finished that. Oh, let me check this. And I go, all right, hold on, let me pull up my Word document, because every time after I meditate, I journal, which is like, whatever's going on, or I'll like whatever I do, I kind of specifically hash out exactly what I want to get done that day. So whenever I'm kind of floating around in like space junk mode, I stop and go, let me just pull up the Word document every single time. I go, oh yeah, let me do that. Dude, it alleviates so much nonsense and bullshit and like weird anxiety as to like, what am I doing? And it like, I really can't recommend it enough. If you're not sitting down every day and being like, here's specifically what I want to get done today. And sometimes I don't get to the stuff, and that's fine, because I just copy and paste it from the day before and put it in the next day. Jesus Christ, man, is that like a simple thing to do? You can even meditate for 5 minutes and then sit there and still, you don't need much time to do that. But having that, and again, it's really just a to-do list. But again, when you journal, it's kind of more tied into like specific thoughts and things that are going on. And, also like having the idea of like what I like to call like a holistic to-do list, which really is just kind of an adaptation of the scorecard, where it's like, rather than like, get this done, do this, do that, it's like peppering in those little fun things too, of like, call a friend, do this. It just makes the whole thing seem better. So it's like, I highly, highly recommend, especially if you're working on a computer or even if your phone, you set it as your background for that day, having that thing of what you said you were going to do, not the week, not the month, not the year, but the day by day ones really help me big time every single day.
Tiger Boy, for the first time showed up to a scorecard session, which was awesome. Tiger Boy, awesome senior brother, but he used a great word, and he just used it in the comments as well. He said the word ritual, and I completely agree with that. As men, we need rituals. I think that's just baked into our DNA. And I do think one of the challenging parts is once we get to, let's say, the part of the scorecard that's developing your craft, because I think that's one of the most important things for a man to do, is to become a craftsman. That's where it gets could be a bit of a blank canvas. But Matt, I think what you're saying, and I agree with, is like in that blank canvas of your craft, and even outside of it, but let's say within your craft, write down specifically what you want to do. And for me, that's where it gets out of the goals list, because the daily activity is oftentimes too tedious to write it completely through your goal. Like, this is the project list for the day. So I'd be curious to hear what you do for this, Matt. But what I do is I have one Excel sheet. I call it my master life workbook. That's where I keep my goals. That's where I keep everything. That's where I print my goals sheet out from. But one of my documents on there is my daily notes document. And if you were looking there, you would see literally years. It's a scrollable, just single tab on Excel. I cleared out all of the grid lines, so it just looks like a blank canvas. You would literally see probably 7 years worth of notes all on one page, right? So then every day I go in there and I increase the space at the top, so it's the newest notes first. But every morning what I do is that's where I have my project list and my task list. So I have those and I move that up every single day. And it's ranked according to projects and actions. And it's not 1,000 things. I also have on there to the right, if you can imagine, the parking lot list. dude, that for me has been one of the most valuable things ever. So if you can imagine, I've got my project list, I've got the actions I want to do from those projects. So the leftmost list is my actions that I want to do that day. Right to the right of it, the next column over, is the project list. Those are all the projects that I'm working on that, like, it's going to take a while to complete. So I have the percentage at which I'm done those. So let's just say it's 50% done. And let's say it's Rhomas University, something like that. Okay, it's 50% done. But I know I've got to do some actions from that. So I take 1 or 2 actions from my list or from my head, and I put them on that daily action list. Okay, good. Then the next column over is waiting. Like if I'm waiting on somebody to get back to me on something. So let's just say I'm, waiting for Matt to finish the videos for Rhomas University. While I'm waiting on that, so I know the project is on hold for me until that's done.
Yep.
Then the next column over from there is parking lot list. And dude, that has helped me probably the most, because it's the physical action of moving a project or an action over to the parking lot. So it's no longer in mental purgatory for me. I just know that I'm not working on this. I could one day. Maybe
Sure.
I bring it back on the project list. Maybe I don't. But that's what keeps my project list from being 5,000 items long.
Yep. Yeah, that's the killer. When it gets too long, when you told me about that before, that works really well. Just like having somewhere like, yeah, I'm interested in this, but I don't need to do this right now, and let me just completely erase this from my brain. It's still going to be there. I'm not being like I'm never going to do this, but it's like, yeah, that's not right now. But that's the thing that would always throw me off. And again, I have like really, really hard time. I have a really hard time sticking to things and following through with things, almost to the point where like I've literally accepted like it's part of my makeup, and I need a lot of prodding and a lot of kind of organization. Otherwise, I just will fall off of what I'm trying to do. And I think the thing that would kind of throw me off a lot is that I would, I would kind of ingest this kind of stuff of like, whether it be personal development, business kind of stuff, and it would really just hype me up because I'd be like, yeah, hell yeah, this is awesome. I'd plan out my year, plan out my month, but my day to day was just so fucking shitty and disorganized that it would just be like, I'd be like, here's my goals for the year, here's what I'm going to do this week, Twitter, and I would just start bullshitting around. It's like, so like really like having your day, and like you and Tiger Boy were saying, like ritualize this. It's as important as any other kind of ritual, to just really sit down and, I mean, it really is like when you sit down and like ritualize the practice of figuring out specifically what you're going to do with that day. It has like a certain depth to it because that's what you're doing with your life. But it's like once you are able to kind of start building those days, even building the hours, like you can really break it down. Like give yourself, like Gunther was saying, 2 hours of it's not just like, putting a thing on a Google Calendar. It's like having certain conversations with people you might feel kind of weird about, being like, hey, here's something I've come up with that I want to do. That's like something as small as that can prevent you from doing all of this, if that makes sense. Like you can sit here and theorize and write all this stuff down, but if you can't go to your boss, like your wife, girlfriend, whatever, and be like, hey, here's something I'm thinking about doing, and then actually follow through with it. It's like of that one thing, of that 1 hour of a certain day, dude, that little shit would hold me up for like years of being like, I'll talk to her about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. One thing I want to throw out there that I've come across recently, just from in my own path, is if I'm finding myself not particularly motivated or as motivated as I feel that I should be, almost every single time, it's because I'm not playing a big enough game. Like I don't have a big enough goal in that particular domain of life. And I think that's important for all of us men to reflect on, which is like, if I were to look through your goals or you were to look through my goals, if your first reaction wasn't to almost laugh, then I probably didn't set it high enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If your first reaction almost wasn't to make fun of me, like saying like, oh, you're not gonna, like that sort of a thing, it's probably not high enough, and you're probably setting the bar too low just to prevent that thing from happening. From one day, a cousin or a friend stumbles upon your goals and they say, oh, like, you're trying to avoid that event, but that most likely that's what you want, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Not just like, write a book, but like, like change the tempo of Western literature. Yeah, dude, I'm way.
Yep.
I mean, it's the. I mean, I know Columbus obviously isn't the most popular person, but it's like Columbus mission, dude. It's like I'm crossing the ocean again.
Yep.
You can be a lot nicer when you cross the ocean. You don't have to be a jerk and enslave and rape everybody and kill them, but setting one of those like 1,400 missions of like dude, I'm going to the new world versus
Yep.
being like, man, I'm gonna have a farm. It's like
Yep.
big difference, and I totally agree, man. If you can really keep yourself, and again, it does sound very funny and laughable, but like trying to get yourself into epic mode is like something I gotta remind. Like when you said that, I just started smiling. I was looking for a pen. Like I gotta write that down and remind myself. You can
Oh
be
yeah,
like,
man.
oh, I'm gonna enjoy it. It's like, dude, I'm in epic mode. I'm going into epic mode. You can laugh.
I
at me,
love
but
epic mode.
I'm
That's a
going into epic
great
mode.
terminology for
Fuck,
that.
dude. I just remember I forgot all about epic mode. I was out of epic mode for like the last 2 months, dude. I'm back in. Just
Yeah,
like
see,
that,
that's the
back
thing,
in.
man. That's the thing because society kind of pulls us back to normal mode. Very few,
Yeah,
but the
dude.
people that we watch, they're in epic mode. And dude, the funny thing is that it actually doesn't require significantly different actions.
No.
Like it really doesn't. It's insane. The people that I've talked to, who are, let's say, where I want to be, I ask them about their day to day, and they almost look at me or us like what we're doing. They're like, you do this every single day. I'm like, yeah. Like, don't you? You're supposed to be epic, man, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like he's like, no, like, I just kind of set my sights a little different. There was one guy who I talked to. He makes about $13 million a year, and I kind of cornered him at a business event, and I said,
Nice. Nice.
yeah, which
Just
is not
little,
socially
just like
acceptable.
you're guarding somebody at basketball. Just like,
Yeah. And it was not acceptable because this was not just like a little rinky-dink network. This was like a big, like heavy hitters were in this meeting. And I kind of pulled him aside and said, hey, like, what have you done? What would you do differently? And right off the bat, he's like, if I were to do it all over again, I would set my sights higher. This is for a dude who makes $13 million a year.
oh, yeah.
Right. Like, he said from the beginning, I would have set my sights higher. And it's like, shit, like I got to remember that because constantly we're out in a world that says like, no, don't do that. Don't even talk about it. Because if you talk about it, it's going to be weird to everybody. You're going to make me feel weird. You're going to make everybody else feel weird. Like, don't even talk about it. Sure. Just do the thing, get a 9-to-5 job, have 2.5 kids, have a white picket fence, like have a mortgage that you can barely afford, pretend that you're rich and you'll be good, but just fit in. Versus like saying like, no, I want to fucking do this. Like this is what I want. And I think the thing to check yourself on is this is what I want. And I'm willing to spend my life trying to accomplish that. Cause I think that's a good litmus test. It's like, okay, sure. You could say you want, to own an island, but if you think that you're going to accomplish that in a year, right, you probably need to check your goals. Or if you say, okay, well, I'm not willing to work for it for decades, then you probably don't really want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And again, it's not like, for me, it's like it's not like you have to be like grossly dissatisfied with day-to-day life. You can be in epic mode in multiple domains of just like epic mode in terms of family, epic mode in terms of relationships. I mean, dude, the bachelor party we went on, I feel like that was epic mode in terms of
That was fucking awesome.
That was so fucking fun. And it's like that's what fucked me up when I was up there. It's like, dude, like why aren't we doing this like once a year? This is crazy. Like why don't people, So and people say, oh, you need money to do that, dude. You can just go to people's houses. You don't got to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can go epic mode into family barbecue, epic mode into just like chilling with your boys, dude. It's like it really is something to be said. And I think this is just I'm hypothesizing, but I think the reason people are afraid to go into epic mode, you've touched on it, Wes, of like just people will laugh at you and be like, shut up. But also it's like we've been highly discouraged from kind of tinging our reality with imagination. And I think a lot of that is kind of like, we're very kind of mechanistic, very materialistic in terms of like our scientific worldview. But, and I think it's kind of adding that kind of like epic narrative to yourself or whatever without becoming like delusional or just like, like an insane person. Obviously we can't forget Hitler was obviously in epic mode. He just fucking took a very dark path. So it's like, how do you do that and balance all this stuff and still stay grounded, connected, and kind of attached to everyone in your life without kind of, and I think there really is a way to do that. And it's just by just going as hard as you can at going as hard as you can. And like we've said a bazillion times, in a holistic manner where it's not like I'm starting this company. I don't care if anyone's not on it, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to have all the conversations necessary with all the important people, the people who are important to me, and just kind of like, attack this thing from a 360-degree angle. And it's like, it's definitely, it is the way, dude. Going into epic mode and announcing it, you have to tell people, which, that's the hard part.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, I'm in epic mode. And
You got to do it.
I mean, in a job interview, imagine a job interview just going into epic mode. Just be like, dude, I know I'm here for this, but, I'm here to disrupt this entire company.
Just showing up in your own like self-made superhero costume. Yeah. You get the job immediately.
Or
I also
sorry,
go ahead, please.
When they ask me like, what do you like about this company? Be like, I'm not even thinking about this company. I'm really working with this industry. I just happen to be working in this company.
Yep.
I mean, dude, come on.
Oh, dude. Well, the other thing is like if you want to try it out, try an epic project. I love the fact that you brought up epic mode. That's fucking beautiful. Do an epic project, man. I remember so one year, about probably 4 years ago, I was raised by a single mom, but there's other women in my life who helped raise me, like Mrs. Joey's mom, Mrs. Grueller, my grandmom, etc. So it's like, I'm going to do an awesome Mother's Day for them. So we got this like enormous stretch Hummer limo, got these 2 awesome restaurants. We went to awesome restaurants in the city. Like it was this amazing fucking night. And I'm not just saying that because like we can all do these like epic mode projects, particularly for people that you love. So like and Mother's Day is coming right around the corner. So it'd actually be cool to give the men a challenge of doing an epic project for your mother during Mother's Day coming up in a little less than a month here now. But try it on for size. Do a project where it's like, I'm going to go all out and I'm going to look nerdy, dude. I don't care what anybody fucking says, but I guarantee you will look back and say, wow, like that's what I can accomplish. Like that's what I'm made of. Like what else can I accomplish?
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, I don't think I've ever looked back on any times that I've tried to go epic mode and been like, damn, that sucked. It was like, damn, that rules.
Yeah. Do you have an example of an epic mode project?
Oh man. I mean, honestly, dude, I'm not gonna lie, and it's just me tooting my own horn, but from the time I was 23, I went full epic mode as an escape from the machine. I was like, dude, I was like, I'm fuck this shit, and so I'm on like epic mode calm down right now. I'm coming back to but dude, it's again, I'm gearing up now. I was oriented, my epic mode was oriented in more of like a short term kind of unsustainable manner, I'll just say. So now I've kind of regrouped and I'm epic moding back towards kind of, putting stuff out and not just being like a kind of a weirdo.
Yeah. I can vouch for Matt when he says that you were for sure in epic mode, sleeping under a bug net with little barrier between you and the outside world in West Philadelphia in your house. I mean, that's epic mode, and you did it for years.
Didn't have a back door, really.
Yep.
I had a chain link.
In West Philadelphia. Yeah.
That's how you got to do it, dude. Come on. I'm getting pumped up right now, dude.
Well, and Tiger Boy brings up a great point. He says wrestling for him was epic mode, literally like a Spartan for 4 months out of the year. Dude, wrestling, I agree with that. I wish I would have wrestled in high school. I think Matt and you and I talked about that over the bachelor party. Yeah, that is epic mode for a significant portion of the year.
Yeah, I kicked myself. Oh, the one thing I do plan on doing in terms of one of my epic mode goals is to not train jiu-jitsu and then show up to a grappling tournament as an untrained dojo-less dude and just compete as a white belt. So I think that'll be pretty
Really?
Fun. Yeah.
You're going to do this?
Yeah, I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to talk to Butterly and Sydney and just be like, I have trained before. I just haven't trained in a while, so I want to physically condition myself and just go compete at just for like a personal thing, just compete as a white belt in like a grappling tournament, and just
I would like to go see that.
How I do. Yeah, it'd be fun.
100%. Please give me like a few weeks heads up.
It'll be fun. I'm just going in epic mode, just being like,
I love it.
I'm going in just dojo-less. Just in my head, people are like, damn, who's that guy train with? Like, nobody. He's Ronin.
Fucking right, dude.
He's Ronin at the white belt level.
You must show up with like some sort of like Karate Kid headband, like 100%.
For sure.
100%. Just says Rhomas on the top.
I'm wearing an epic mode tank, dude.
All right, dude. Who are we thinking about bringing on? Anybody want to come on? What's the barrier that somebody's working with, or a win they want to share? And just FYI, I feel like Gunther's killing it. Every time I look in the comment section or in the Discord, the dude's just crushing it. He's got forearms like Arnold, and he's got a barrel chest, dude.
Dude.
You see his chest? Oh, what an animal!
Saw him last week. I'm gonna grab that Tiger Boy, dude.
And he's got girls stalking him, all that stuff. Like I feel like Gunther's we under talk about him. He's kind of one of those silent killers, dude.
He's a quiet hero, dude. I've said it way back. I was like, Gunther's been lurking for a while, dude. Not even just lurking, he's been highly active, but he's been doing his thing. What's up, Tiger Boy?
Yo, what's up, fellas? How's it going?
Tiger Boy, what is up, brother? Second time today, man.
Yeah, dude. I'm feeling popular today, goddammit.
That's right.
What's up, dude?
All right, so my thing is, I actually very recently came on the I came on the Discord to have like a moment of vulnerability and just be real about the fact that I'm a fucking so. Matt, you kind of talk about this in your like whenever you're talking about trying to facilitate smoking in like a healthy way.
Sure.
I've been an alcoholic for like a hot ass minute, dude. And I find that in my life, I'm the most effective. I get the most shit. I am the most epic mode in terms of productivity whenever I'm like stone cold sober for like a long period of time.
Sure.
But in terms of making like because alcohol is that social lubricant, right? So
Yeah.
in terms of making strides in like a social domain, um, when I'm not drinking, I just don't fucking go anywhere. I just don't do anything, right?
Yep.
Like everything in my life is oriented towards like, okay, I'm gonna become a computer programmer. Okay, I'm gonna work 3 jobs, right? But like, so I just got out of a relationship recently, and so I'm kind of getting back on the horse and getting out there and like dating and shit like that. And so that led me back into the realm of drinking. So I'm trying to figure out how to integrate alcohol into my life in like a productive way, or if that's me just fucking lying to myself and like there's no way. Like I feel like people have different thresholds for moderation, you know?
Sure.
And I'm not sure if moderation is just sort of like a fool's gold to someone with like an addictive nature or addictive tendencies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a really fair point. And yeah, so I wonder. So when you say like alcoholic, like break that down to me. So like, what is that like? Because I grew up with people who were like if I could see my uncle fall at a family party and be like, whatever. It's like, break
Yeah.
that down. So when you say that, what specifically is that?
Like in terms of like what is alcoholism or
Yeah,
like
how what like when you were saying like if you're in a heavy drinking thing, like what's that look like specifically?
so depends on the week.
Sure.
Sometimes it could be like, sometimes I wake up out of bed. Okay, it's exactly like Jordan Peterson said. Like the person who realizes that the cure for a hangover is to keep drinking is someone who falls deeply into alcoholism, right?
Sure.
And so basically, I wake up. Like let's say I'll go to a bar or I'll go to a party and I'll get wasted and I'll have a good time, just like functional adult drinking, right? I wake up the next day, terrible splitting hangover, feel like absolute garbage. And then it's like, all right, dude, am I going to go throughout my entire day feeling like garbage or am I just going to start the party early, right?
Gotcha.
And then I'll crack open a cold one with the intention of, okay, I'm just going to drink this beer, take the edge off, and then I'm going to like hydrate and I'm going to drink. I'm going to hydrate and I'm going to eat food and I'm going to like, get back into like a stable place. And then like 30 minutes later, I'm like fucking 5 shots of Fireball deep. Like I go off the rails. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. So here's the question in terms of this is very hard and I get it. And I think again, this is this realm is tough to establish absolutes because I'm seeing like Ray being like I just can't drink. I'm seeing Lucas being like I just can't drink, and I see some people being like it gets problematic for me, but I can moderate, and it's about and it's I think all are totally valid. So I think what people need to do, I think that's kind of more of a blanket policy, is definitely experiment with like what would it be like to go on a date with a stranger and just be like, hey, I'm not drinking tonight. Like, how do you feel about that? Is that unacceptable? You can start to question why is that unacceptable. So yeah, I think a lot of this stuff just takes like serious experimentation and then like very honest appraisals of like that actually went well or like did that go bad because I wasn't drinking or did that go bad because I kind of lacked the self-confidence to hand that sort of position. So it's like, and I can say it's very hard to go on a date with somebody. You're already kind of in your head enough and being like, oh, actually I'm not drinking. And it's like, did I just go on a fucking date? So
right. Especially when, they come in and I've had this happen to me like very recently where like, we're having like a fun, bubbly conversation and the waiter comes up and is like, hey, would you guys like something to drink? She's like, I'll have a fucking Bloody Mary or some shit. And I'm like, I don't drink. And then it's just like, skirt, like the whole like vibe changes immediately. And now there's one part of me that's like, okay, well, if that's enough to change the vibe, maybe that's not somebody that you should be dating in the first place. But at the same time, it's like, well, how many sweet bays am I willing to let slip through my fingers over this? You know what I mean?
That's a fantastic point, and it's like you know, and Roger was saying too, it's like, you know, there's that, and that's kind of how I think. But then you have Roger, who's like, it's really just, you know, 0.05 seconds if you keep talking past it, like, hey, I'm good.
Yeah, that's true.
You can always just be like, I'm cool, and then they can always, if they're curious, they can be like, well, you don't drink, and you can be like, you know, you can say no, I'm trying not to right now, or I just don't really want to, or I just, you know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are ways to go about that, and I also think too, then it kind of it's funny how all these things kind of coalesce, and you know, I'm curious what you think about this too, Wes, but like that whole thing of like, sometimes you have to, how do I say this? Like you might have to let whole swaths of people pass in order to kind of like find a person who truly kind of fits into exactly what you're trying to do. Because especially when I would like, you know, I'm not saying this is how you think, but I would just be like, I just want to go fuck. I'm trying to fuck girls. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But then you end up establishing these relationships that aren't exactly like anything remotely in line with the other things I'm trying to do, which, you know, or I would say more important for me personally. But it's like, it's hard, you know, when that immediate focus is like, I want to get this date to go successfully. Blah, 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 blah. You know, you start engaging in all these behaviors, and I think there's something to be said for fixing some sort of personal structure based on like the larger things you're trying to do, and then kind of going from there and letting the people who inhabit that world fall into place rather than constantly shuffling your behaviors around to kind of appease person A, person B, person C, person D, you know, blah, blah, blah.
So essentially like not, instead of like modifying my behavior and like the things that I'm doing to try to attract a certain type of person, it's more like, hey, just what are you orienting yourself towards? What are you trying to achieve? Go do those things, and then the type of person that you're more likely to like maybe be compatible with will come naturally, like as a natural result of putting yourself in those situations and shit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like, you know, you both could be people pleasing each other. Maybe she doesn't really want to drink, but she's like, well, I don't want to say I'm not drinking and freak him out.
I've definitely seen that happen for sure.
And it's like, dude, Roger's always on some pimp shit, dude. But he was saying they need to live up to your standards, not the other way around. It's like rules.
True.
So yeah, and you know, it is a dance. It's a back and forth. But like, yeah, that's
although that
good.
Sorry to cut you off.
Please.
So that like, you know, kind of make them live up to your standards thing. That's something that, you know, I've spent like my entire life being a people pleaser. And that's something that I've sort of been trying to get away from in more recent times. I had a conversation with my brother that was very illuminating on this topic, where he was like I was like, dude, how do you go to bars and like get laid? I don't understand that. He was like, well, I don't go up to girls and try to impress them. I go up to girls and see if they're interesting. And that was kind of like,
dang.
Oh shit. Okay, so like you're the prize. But he and this is like the fundamental difference. He truly believes that. Like he lives that, right? I'm like kind of a goofy looking motherfucker. I live in Missouri and I'm an Indian dude, so like I'm already playing off of my fucking back foot whenever I start talking to like half racist white girls in the first place.
Sure.
And so it's like trying to actually get myself to really believe that, like, yeah, dude, this fucking 10, she's lucky to be talking to me. Like, I find it difficult to, like, lie to myself in that capacity. Yeah, St. Louis gang, what's up? I'm trying not to reach out too much because I want to, like, focus on the conversation. But,
sure.
Yeah. It's...
Well, yeah, no, for sure. And there's, you know, there is that, but there's also I think there's a happy medium, because I'm the same. I can't convince myself that I'm going to be like, who's next? Lucky for me. Like, it's just, it's not going to happen. And, you know, and that's sick that people can roll like that. But you can really, if you establish, like, you know, exactly what you're after and what you're trying to do, and you know, and you can make the first date communicating that in some capacity, and then being like, that kind of shifts it to where that is what you're doing, of like, you know, quote, like seeing if they're interesting. But you can just paraphrase and be like, you know, I genuinely want to see if somebody fits into this kind of thing. Or if you're just trying to have fun, then you're just trying to have fun. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But But yeah, there is something to be said for just being like, because I approach dating forever just like that, of like seeing what they're into and being like, I can kind of Voldemort myself into some, I can like Alex Mack myself into something that they'll be like, oh yeah, hell yeah. And, you know, it wasn't total lies and deception, but there was definitely some flexibility
it's like,
there.
I'm going to make myself as amicable to someone that she might want to fuck as possible.
Yeah. You're watching you're 3 episodes of NCIS deep, like, yes, not bad.
Dude, I literally found myself watching Twilight with a girl the other day. Like, what the fuck am I doing, dude?
So yeah, Wes, what do you think? Because I know you've had experience in this domain, especially following through with being like, here's what I'm about, here's what I'm not about. You know, what do you think about that?
Yeah, well, and I think so. A couple things. Number one, I think it's so important, Tiger Boy, to do exactly what you're doing. Just talk to other dudes and get different perspectives. I don't think any one answer is the right answer. It's just what do you gravitate towards the most.
Yeah.
Respectfully, I can tell you got to stop doing that shit.
Hard agree.
Just as a brother to brother.
So I'm not to make excuses, but I'm smoking to wean myself off of vaping.
I can respect that.
I know it's like kind of bass backwards, but dude, trying to quit vaping is a fucking nightmare, dude.
Oh, I'd imagine.
These taste like shit. I don't like them, but it's because I don't like them that I can just like kick it.
Yeah.
But like,
whenever
I find myself fucking fiending for vapes, it's like nasty, bro.
Yeah. So here's what I can say. And you know, I say that out of love, like just purely as a brother to brother, you know?
I mean, even if you were saying it judgmentally, I would agree.
No.
But like, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So the way that I visualize this, and I think there's a lot of truth to this, but this is what helps me. In my opinion, number one, just for the drinking aspect, we have the cards stacked against us because, Matt, if I were to ask you, especially back east, if there was one attribute to judge men off of, even that men judge each other, what do you think that one attribute would be for men to be what?
I don't understand that. What do you mean?
Like if you were to say a woman is going to judge a man, what would she want him to be? What's one particular attribute? Let's just say tall.
Hot. You want me to say guys are hot, Wes? Is that what you're trying to get me to do?
I feel like what I'm searching for is there's an element of strength that men are supposed to have. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be like this thing, right?
Yeah.
And we see that through like, you know, football or fighting and all this kind of stuff. Like if we watch what men watch, right? Mostly we're watching football, fighting, or some sort of like altercation. Sure. But the messed up part about it is society at a certain age then puts a cap on us and says, no, you can't do that. Right. Like, and so you can't go out and fight. You can't go and be aggressive, like any form of that. Right. Like, especially now we're being pushed, pushed against so much. So it's like, okay, well, you put one hand behind her back. Another hand they put behind her back from the get-go was we're not supposed to do like fun stuff like dancing and that kind of stuff. That's been socialized out of us. And that's crazy. Yeah. If you ever watch a little kid, like every kid, regardless of gender, loves dancing. So all of a sudden we're in a really weird spot. We got both hands tied behind our back. And so that's where all of a sudden we get this idea. It's like, well, shit, if I can't be my true sense of self, like how do I almost like numb that? Well, okay, well, the closest thing to that is like alcohol or some sort of drug usage. So I hang out with my buddies and like it helps pass the time. I think that's unfair for men personally.
Yeah.
So I think
basically it's like alcohol is basically giving people, or it's us giving ourselves permission to be the creature that we like want to be.
Well, permission, and it's almost only one of the only acceptable outlets to go and be that. So the way that I envision like a bar scene is like a bunch of tranquilized men going in with their new button-down shirt from Kohl's and being like, "Hey, my name's Wes." Like, you think, you know, that's so delusional. Yeah. So I'd say wipe that shit away and take ourselves back to when we were tribes people and we were hunters and warriors, etc. The women wanted the warrior who's coming back, who has a legend attached to his name, a narrative attached to his name because he goes out every fucking day and he hunts or he fights and he comes back. It's not the dudes who sit back at camp telling, you know, stories, right, and how to communicate. It's like, no. But in my opinion, what women are attracted to is the warrior. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get some guys who can communicate that they are a warrior, but eventually they're found out that they're not. right? And that's what all like the pickup artist books are about. Like I've read them all. Like they're all a bunch of hocus pocus. They're about how do you manufacture the narrative of a true man, and how do you communicate that in a short period of time. But eventually the woman finds out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you said you were a wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you have the DNA. Where like if you just go full out into that, all of a sudden you are the one who's being attracting people, because if you get back, your body's going to show it, right? Your habits are going to show it. You're not going to drink, because show me a wrestler, right? Like, let's say a top performing wrestler that has unbelievably bad habits. Very few of them do.
Because
wrestling,
not even like collegiate wrestlers, really. Like,
dude, it's not possible. Like,
dude,
how are you going to keep that lifestyle? So my suggestion, and I want to keep myself true to this as well, is be up to such a big game and to make it so fucking hard for yourself because you want it to be, right? Every single day. Then the dinner where you go and tell the girl that you don't drink, it doesn't fucking matter. And that's where it's like, I'm putting in so much work every single day. If you're drinking in front of me and I don't, and again, no judgment, but if you're looking for a spouse, right, don't you want her to have similar values to you?
Right.
But if your own values aren't really defined yet and they're kind of squishy, she's going to walk all over you. Right. And I would say that's working against you. Right? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, so let me ask you about that. So first of all, that's fucking G. Love that shit. But what I want to ask you, and you made me think, like, okay, so basically the idea is like, if you have like a set of values that can be fucking swayed by the wind, you're not a man of strength.
Yeah.
And so even if you can get a girl, she's not gonna fucking stick around because like,
or she will and just start to run your your life. Which
and we've all seen that.
Yeah. It's never pretty, right?
No.
Like, okay, so this is something that I struggle with heavily, which is like, how the fuck, and you guys talk about like defining your values and shit like that. How do you, I know that's a very like broad and maybe vague question, but like I feel like my values vary week to week. Like 2 weeks ago, if you smoked a cigarette around me, I'd be like, dude, get the fuck out of my face. Like, what? Get that from around me. A month ago, when I had been sober for 2-3 months, if you drank around me, like, I wouldn't judge, but I'd be like, I'm just gonna leave this situation, right?
Sure.
And now I'm in just like a completely different place, and I feel like the things that I find acceptable are like night and day different. So when you say like, okay, ground yourself in your values, how did you come to figuring out what your values are?
Dude, I'll say the stuff that helped me was the ACT stuff, the acceptance commitment therapy. There was a whole like chapter on it, and they kind of go from, well, you can do a bunch of stuff. So you could take like, you could start with people in real life. If there are people in real life that you just kind of admire and like what they're doing, and you kind of like try to boil that down into like value, like, well, think about, well, why? And then it's like, well, I like, say I like my one cousin has his own business and works hard, and and he has a bunch of kids, and he kind of holds it all together. That's something I admire. It's like, well, how does he do that? And you start to think, well, he's kind of, he's upfront with everybody. You start to thinking about stuff like that. So you can start to kind of like try to gravitate toward those qualities. You can take it with fictional characters. You can even there's something as simple as you go online and just like Google value words, and it'll be like honest, truthful, creative. You can say, all right, which one of these kind of, you think about as a magic eye, which ones pop out and kind of resonate with me. Again, Kaizen said it's just pen to paper, just write them down. And then it's just as simple as like, all right, so what are things I could do? And there's other ways you can do it too. What are things I could do to reflect those values through action? Like say I want to be honest, right? Okay, is there anyone I need to be kind of honest with? And you can think you have those conversations, so that to me is how you start to kind of figure it out. And the rest, I think once you start doing that, kind of solidify and fall into place.
Yeah. And so that's
go ahead,
sort of, no, you're good. I fucking talk too much.
Fine.
So like, okay, let's use honesty as an example. When I think of honesty, I feel like that's something that I value heavily, and I think that that's something that's very important. But also, if a girl asks me how big my dick is, I'll fudge the truth. Like, it's like, so even things that I think I value heavily, I feel like given the right set of circumstances, I would move the goalposts on. So can that really be something that I value heavily if it's something that I'm willing to move the goalposts on, or am I just not like, or maybe I just haven't built a strong foundation on that, or like how does that work? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I
Sure, yeah.
chime in here, Matt?
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've ever showed you guys this, pardon the analytical, like nerdy part of my brain, but that's just how my brain functions. So this is one part of my goals binder, right? And this is the vision board. I heavily believe in vision boards, but this is the vision board towards, earning a spouse. So all of these things are the things that I have broken down and saying, okay, these are the things that it seems like will earn the spouse that I want. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So then, like, my value system for that particular domain of my life falls within these. I can tell you this guy, I owe this guy a lot. Like, this guy I look at every single day. So automatically, I think for me, creating values from the bottom up is difficult because it lands in an abstract world. It's like all of a sudden you get all these words floating around and so on. It's like, oh yeah, well, that sounds good. That sounds good. That sounds
Right.
good. For me, that's too difficult. For me, it's like, oh, I want to be that guy, right? I want my body to look like his. Automatically, when you go on that journey, the values fall in place because automatically it's like, oh, well, I got to eat the right food, right? I got to work out. Right now, whether or not you want to call those values, so let's call that hard work and discipline. But I got that from reverse engineering the goal, not bottom up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
So I would highly recommend going out, and the difficult part is, and I say this 100% respectfully, I put women in the category of, this is going to sound terrible, but they're like, it's the reward. It's not the game. Does that make sense? And I think for people who treat it as the game, that's where you get caught in these like real slippery tactics. And yeah, they could work at a bar, etc. But it's like, no, that's the trophy. You can't just go get, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
like,
dope.
So be in pursuit of the things that are important to you. And I can tell you, man, that's where it gets down to a table. Because when you're at the table, all you're trying to communicate, like my goal for you and for me would be to show up at that table so that you've already spoken so much without saying a word. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Right. If you show up with it in a fucking hoodie, like that's wrinkled, right? Like all of a sudden, if your body's not where it should be. Now, whether or not your feelings are irrelevant towards it, doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter. You could feel bad about yourself. You could, whatever you could have been busy. You get the right clothes on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whatever you feel at that moment. It matters what you are communicating. And the cool thing about men, dude, and you said you said your looks, dude. First of all, that's ridiculous for you to say that. I'll tell you this: all men except for like Brad Pitt and George Clooney are ugly. The great thing that we have as men is women don't give a shit about that. Jack Black, you know that comedian?
Holes.
Dude, he was voted sexiest man alive like 8 years ago. I remember reading, like, how is that possible? Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, he was on the cover of like Time magazine or some shit like that.
Dude, is that like a troll article or is that dead ass?
Nope.
No, he's singing and dancing around. Yeah, I mean, Wes is right. It's like,
Oh shit.
yeah, it's not the same thing. I mean, obviously, like, like he was saying, if Brad Pitt or some 6'5" Adonis, they notice that kind of stuff, obviously.
Sure.
But it's not the end all be all. It's not the same thing.
No.
It's like the way it's noticed, assessed, and kind of held in mind for women, totally different.
And here's the thing. So I'll prove this right now. It's all, in my opinion, this is why Jordan Peterson helped me bridge together this gap enormously. It is all about dominance hierarchy, 100%. Right? Like, I'll tell you this. All else equal, sure. Like, if you're just showing up to a bar, like I said, in a new button down from Kohl's, congratulations, because you just fit in with every other dude there. So all else equal, sure. Are they going to pick the dude who like looks most symmetrical? Yes, that's how it works. But I guarantee you, if you're the dude, here, I'll change the scenario real quick. Same bar, right? One version is you go to the bar and you just try to go and talk to girls. They have no way of differentiating you at all, right? You look like just the same other dudes there, right? Regardless of the color of your skin. Doesn't matter, I promise you.
Damn. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
Change that to now we go to the same bar, but you're teaching a salsa dance lesson to everybody there. Like, you're the instructor that showed up. Dude, entirely different. You're now at the top of the dominance hierarchy. And I do that. Just by the way, the color of your skin will work in your favor, right? The element of being an outsider, always not, like, there's so many subconscious things here, 100%. Sure. And then if like you get your body jacked up, like you do all this stuff, like there's so many things. The cool thing about being a man is our results depend on our effort sustained over time. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the same for our women counterparts. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like we've got the best hand that we could have dealt. Like it's like all we have to do is earn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's true, fucking dope.
And that's one setting. There's a million other settings. There's a million other things. And it really does. If you're stacking your W's during the day, you're a different person. You're approaching everything with a different energy, because it's not like, oh, hopefully this thing goes. My whole mental livelihood stakes upon your acceptance of me in this moment. It's like, no, I've been stacking W's all day. Like, what's up? You want to hang out or no? And blah blah blah. And again, it's like you just find whatever attitude works for you, and in terms of like approaching that kind of situation, but knowing that that's only, the relationship, like Wes, I like how he has that, is like, in terms of like deconstructing values from different goals and tasks and things you want to do. It's like, that's one domain of value. Romantic relationships, and that's the other thing too, of like doing what's literally called values writing, where you go through and like the different domains, but it's like, that's just one domain. It's like, there's so many other things to build up, and and I think they all kind of fit in together once you're doing it. If you're like really crushing it in terms of your craft, your health, or whatever, it makes those ones way easier, and vice versa.
And that's how you end up doing what my brother does, and actually feeling like I am the prize, because you are. So it's not about like deluding yourself into believing that you are the prize, as much as it is living a life that is conducive to you actually being one, like being the salsa dancer in the room, or being the person who can like bring you said something, Wes. You said something a while ago that like sort of changed the way that I look at like values, which was like, you were just like, okay, like people bring different amounts of value to things, right? Like, let's say you're funny. Funny is a invaluable asset that you can bring to the table. And I was like, whoa, I always thought of it more as like a social crutch, but like, which it can be, but like having that as like, okay, yeah, I'm a funny looking dude, but every single person who's around me is laughing. So like, I'm bringing something to the table that the dude in the Cole shirt isn't, right? And that's
100%.
Like, dude, yeah, man, I love talking to you guys. You guys are bad dudes.
Well, think of it this way. And this is one more thing too that I really, something I've been working on specifically this year, of just the concept of being your own friend. Like, I think Jordan Peterson talks about this too, of just like being your own friend, and actually liking yourself. Because if you genuinely, and being very honest with yourself, don't like yourself, it's almost like, when you go out somewhere to meet somebody, you are bringing yourself in some respects. So it's like, either you're going to be out with the other person and, you're with yourself being, did you ever bring like a friend out who just doesn't know how to act, and you're just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
People, I think, view themselves in that way, where you're almost like apologizing for yourself as you're interacting with a person. And it's just kind of like totally unnecessary, but that takes like really serious meditation and reflection, and like almost allowing yourself to feel the feelings of self-assurance and the fact that you're okay with yourself. And you don't have to be perfect, but like the fact that you're on your own side versus constantly trashing yourself, being, you fucking idiot, blah, 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 blah. It's like, that like I was so used to doing that I thought that's just how your brain works. But yeah, you really don't have to approach things like that. And it'll pop up, and you can just be like, okay, here it is. Like, it happens to me all the time. And I go, oh, here's that weird thing I do, versus being like, I knew I'm a blah, blah, blah. And you just let it passes, and you just go with what you're doing.
Yeah. And dude, I'd be curious. And I gave Jake this experiment earlier as well. And by the way, I'm doing it with myself. I've got to constantly kind of re-up my calendar. I'd be curious what would happen if you can afford it. What I would recommend is try it for a week. Go and join a CrossFit gym. Go and join a dance studio, and go and join something else. Have your schedule packed from morning until night, and do that for a week. And all of a sudden, like, people ask me all the time, like, why'd you stop drinking? Honestly, if I had to, like, one of the core attributes is I just don't have time. If I'm on a date with a girl, let's say when I was dating, I have a girlfriend now, but let's say when I was dating, I would tell them, dude, I would not hide it at all. I would break the two biggest rules. I wouldn't drink, and I'd order a fucking salad, and I'd just stare back at them for like 2 seconds. It's like, you're gonna deal with it, you know.
That's a power move, bro.
And and no dressing, you know, like that sort of a thing. And it was because I didn't want to butter it up. Like I'm not going to hide any version of myself to try to get her. Like, no, it's either you're in or you're out. And by the way, it's not a judgment. It's just like, okay, where are they going to be aligned or not? But here's the thing in the back of my mind. It's like, if I drink right now, I'm going to wake up a half hour later tomorrow, or I'm going to be 30% less effective. And my grandmom's poor. I can't have that happen, right? Like, so each area of my life. And again, I'm not saying that you should model me. I'm saying this is what works for me.
Yeah.
You know, there's no room for any of this. And Matt can keep me honest. It's like, you know, when I went to the bachelor party, I didn't drink a sip. Did it look fun? Absolutely. But I knew that, like, and here's where I felt really good. We all went in the cold water the next day in the lake. And dude, Matt and I, we all went down, and his cousin was in there, and so on. And I was like, I'm gonna die before I get out of this. Like, nobody's gonna see me walk out of this fucking water before anybody else, you know. But it's like setting up, like manufacturing that difficult daily process in the direction of your goals, and that's where the Jordan Peterson's like, you create the thing that you want, but then you do it unapologetically, man. And that you do that for long enough, and dude, the girls will come to you, guarantee. I know that sounds so cliche, but and also just as a quick side note, I think bars are trash. Like that whole, like, that's the stereotypical like showdown of like where you go and get girls. Matt, I don't know what you think about that, but like that's, you know, that represents one place where you could go and find girls, and it's very little value there. I mean, Matt, what are your thoughts on that? I think it's not a good ground to go and hunt.
No, it's not. It's unfortunate, especially the older. When you're 21, 22, it makes sense to be there. Yeah, once you start getting older,
I'm like 25.
Yeah, so it starts to hit the exactly. When you're in college, if you're an alcoholic, you're the man. And then as soon as you're out of college, you're an alcoholic, and you're not the man. It's like, that sucks. So yeah, I think as you get older, for me personally, I would say again always that to start to kind of try to build relationships outside of them. Again, there's some people who are like, that's my thing, I love it. That's fine, that's cool. For me, bars are kind of, there's always something lacking, and it's like anywhere where you have to show up and drop $80 or whatever on alcohol, have a hangover the next day. I think it kind of sucks. There is shit you can do, like there's Topgolf, there's a ton of places you can go where you can actually do a thing, and it's like you don't. It's not like a strict bar. Like, you're there to drink, and if you're not drinking, you're a weirdo. Whereas if you're at like Wes was saying, somewhere else, like whether it be CrossFit or whatever, if you're just bowling, anything, you don't have. It's like this side thing. So again, it's really like the thing is like just an honest assessment. How does drinking work for me? Does it produce negative or positive things? For me, when I run that scenario, I go mostly. It's kind of fun, sort of, but it's mostly negative. I don't like the hangover. It's something
you get fat.
You get fat. It's totally unsustainable over long periods of time. So my personal policy is like rarely, if ever. And I have like, I don't feel called to alcohol. I can, like, if I have liquor, I can like, just turn into a wild man. I still have that in me, but there's no part of me that wakes up being, let's do that again. I'm like, I'm never doing that ever again.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I think it's really like, starting, and again, you're still, you're still pretty young, so it's like, or I would say, really
super young. Absolutely.
So it's like, there's no sweat off not having these things clearly defined. It's like, if you can at least start the process, and like, especially with your saying of like, going like, I have it all together one day, and then I kind of don't, and then it's like, for me, that's like the story of my life still to this day. But what happens is when you can really start to like ratchet these things down and set this focus, it's like, you have this wide orbit where you're like, hey, I'm this person on this week, and I'm this person on this day. That orbit starts to close to where, like, you start to notice, like, I'll have like an off week, but it's nowhere near the off week I would have had. And that's only possible for me by like constantly reminding myself of like, what do you want to do? What are you up to? And it's like, again, if I have an off week, no problem. But it's like the revolutions of that orbit aren't so, diametrically opposed. They're kind of contained in a smaller kind of orbit.
Like on one half of the rotation, you're not literally destroying everything you were doing on the other way around.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
You're just kind of grumpy, if that makes sense.
So, yeah, dude. So, now I asked this question knowing that it kind of goes like, okay, what you were saying earlier, Wes, which is the idea of like, girls aren't the goal; they're the reward for reaching the goal. Which is a fucking dope mentality. I love that. But you're also like, bars fucking stink, which they do. I agree. I kind of have to like hold my nose to walk into one, but I like puss. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm a fucking young 20-something-year-old and I'm not really financially well off, it's something that I'm working on, and let's say I do want to go meet sweet baes, where do you go?
Okay, dude. So this is where, and just to hammer home the point, Matt, what was the line? And I want to see if you remember this. When we were at your bachelor party over the weekend, and Shane was talking about like, oh, he wants to go to the bar. What did he say he needed? He's like, I can't just go to a bar.
Yeah, someone was like, just go in there, and he was like, yeah, I need to be at a comedy club, man. He was like,
Yep.
So yeah. That was
yep, he's like, I need to be at a show. So it doesn't like that's what I'm saying. So here in my opinion, here's the secret. This, like, you define who you want to be, and you go and pursue those things. And now it has to be real, right? Because the pursuit of those things is going to take a long time to acquire, right?
Fuck yeah.
And, dude, within those domains, man, like 100%.
Yeah.
I can even tell you this. So if like, let's think about this. Let's say you never go to another bar again, and you pick the 5 things that you want to pursue. Maybe it's your physical body, maybe it's dance, maybe it's stand-up comedy, whatever that is. You pick those few things and you quadruple down to them, and you get rid of everything else. Just stop fucking doing it. You don't fucking do it anymore. You don't go to the bars. You don't do whatever because you've agreed with yourself that you are in pursuit of these 5 things. Even if there's no females in those 5 things, which, by the way, I would recommend that you pick a domain that does have females in it, whether it be like, dancing, etc. That's obviously
dude. That's why I got out of pro gaming. There's no ass.
Right. So
pretty
like,
tight you're a programmer, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like, so you got to consider that too. But let's even say there's no females in those domains. The narrative that you will have just by telling other people what you're up to is the narrative that will be the commercial for those females who are then introduced to you. I guarantee it. And dude, Matt's have experience. Like, we all have experience with this. I guarantee you, if you're on pursuit, and then all of a sudden, now that date that you've gone on, or the dating profile, right? You are the jujitsu guy. You are the bodybuilder. You are the dancer. You are the CEO. Whatever that is, like whatever those 3 to 5 things are, man. Like, that's the game, in my opinion. And here's the cool thing: you don't have to accomplish any of those things. It's in pursuit of those things. Females are attracted to the ambition and the action behind it, not that you're there right at that point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, no one is expecting you to be there either, being 25.
And dude, I can tell you that I have mentors who are those things, but then they stopped because they thought it was just a final thing. It's like, no. And now, like, right, their wives, you can tell, are not happy. Right, like almost peeking around the corner. Right, do you know what I mean? It's like, no, you as a man, you pick the areas and you stay on the path of progress forever.
The pursuit doesn't end.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, and you wouldn't want
to.
That's
a hard concept to. That's a hard concept to really bite down because, I definitely want. I want to like, all right, did it, and like I want to like do it, say I've done it, and then be done with it, but like. That's a fool's dream. Can't do that.
you can put the Little League trophy up on the case.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you got to graduate into the high school level. You got to graduate to the next level. Yeah. And you can by the way, you can pick a different game. You can go get a black belt in jiu-jitsu and then change to Muay Thai, or you can change to wrestling. It doesn't matter, but it's in the pursuit. And by the way, you want that too. We all want that. It's just we're constantly given lesser options, and they're not as hard. And they're more socially acceptable. So then we backtrack, and that's where the bar scene comes up, man. That's where all the other stuff comes up. It's like, no,
path of least resistance.
Yep. Be the outlier, dude.
Absolutely. Well, let's wrap it up, dude.
Fuck yeah.
This was
dude. I've been on
fantastic.
I've been on my 15-minute break at work for like an hour now.
Well, let's wrap it. I'm gonna whatchamacallit, actually have my boy stopping by right now.
All right.
But yeah, dude, that's the reminder, dude. Bars are just kind of like a waiting screen for people who just aren't in epic mode, dude. So they're just pulled there like sim characters. You have to.
Yep.
Yeah. Next time you go to a bar, look around. Look to your left. Look to your right. No one's in epic mode.
No.
I highly doubt they are. Highly doubt they are. They might
Yeah,
be.
that's fucking
but
dope.
They might be, but I doubt it.
All right, yo, you guys are fucking sick. Thank you for the
Dude,
talk. I
you too,
needed
brother.
that
Of course, bro.
big time.
Of course,
Fucking
bro.
right, man.
We all do pretty much every day.
Hell yeah.
All right, brother.
All right, bro.
Good seeing you, bro.
See you, man.
Later.
All right, Wes. What do you say, Tiger? Just throw Tiger Boy up as the. I mean,
I think so, man.
I think so.
I think vulnerability. I mean, if everybody's cool with that, I'd say we give Tiger Boy with the trophy, and that is a precursor to his female trophy in the future.
Absolutely. Hell yeah, dude.
Cool. All right,
All
brother.
right.
I know we went way long. Sorry you had to run, but I appreciate you
all right.
staying on, dude.
Dude, please, I mean that was awesome. That's what
It
it's
was
all
epic.
about.
Some would say that's epic.
That was an epic conversation. Yeah, that was.
Some would say that.
All right.
All right,
Later
dudes.
on.
Have an awesome
See ya.
weekend.